What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today when I talk to you about SoundHound, I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what is really affecting it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoundHound is down 1.53%, 1127 the low, 1192 the high. So as soon as the market did open, it had some good momentum. A lot of that was stemming from this right here, so building permits and also starts, both coming in better than anticipated. So pretty good stuff. Market is somewhat freaking out over, not crazy amount, but they're somewhat starting to have more and more fear associated to two things. One, first thing, the mortgage rate data did come out very high still. So a lot of people, I think, are assuming that this is going to really affect and add to the level of inflation. So there's that. In addition to the potential thing might affect SoundHound, but Trump did state that he's going to actually be sticking with Biden's M&A plan, and which is largely restrictive. So ultimately making acquisitions a lot more difficult. And we already do know SoundHound loves their acquisitions. Most likely as well, even that recent S3 that did come out, that was going to be for, in my opinion, of course, for an acquisition. I'm sure they'll talk on vague kind of points in their upcoming earnings next week, but nonetheless, though, that is definitely adding a kind of a blanket over the broader market. Just, it doesn't, I think people were somewhat optimistic about Trump kind of canceling that and having a whole new plan, but I guess it is what it is. But specific to SoundHound, no news, no SEC filings, nothing like that. They did post this on social media. So they are going to be at the Women in Restaurant Leadership Conference this week. So February the 20th between 3 and 4. So it looks like this individual is going to be speaking. So yeah, pretty good stuff. SoundHound is definitely getting their name out there at a lot of conferences. So I think generally that is a pretty positive thing. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to innovation, hitting the marks, and getting customers. So definitely for when it comes down to this upcoming earnings, they will have to really not play around, hit a home run, and all the other fun jazz. But latest 13Fs have been coming out, and so far you see a good amount. So you see some institutions kind of closing out their puts, so always a good thing to see that. You see brand new ones right here, but I think at this stage in the day, it's starting to dwindle out. So all the big players have already disclosed all the 13Fs and stuff like that. On a side note, hopefully you can hear me and everything. I'm not at home right now, so using kind of a alternate mic, so hopefully the audio is good, so my apologies if not. But going over shorts, so shorts are returning right now, 374,000 shares, 30.45% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 100.21 million shares overall are being shorted. So you see this, you don't see it all too often with SoundHound, but cost to borrow minimum is negative, meaning that there is a broker out there physically paying people to short SoundHound. So even though it doesn't happen all that much, it does add some insight onto who is truly shorting SoundHound. So it is a broker, so you can always refer back to, let's say if anyone has time, or maybe over the weekend I can kind of go through it, but of the 13Fs, which entities have brokerages and what they've been doing as far as shares. So if they actually own them, if they've been increasing, reducing. But I think this does add some insight on who potentially could be shorting it. But moving on from that, though, looking at options, 5.2 million in calls, 5.04 in puts. 50% of all the options being done today are optimistic in nature. And ultimately, you can kind of see that the consensus is for it to be roughly around that, here, I'll just scroll down here, roughly around that about $14.50 to $15, that range. And then the bears are anticipating, sorry for all that, then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 1050. So they're still anticipating a kind of a broader pullback, but I think given everything, SoundHound's actually holding up fairly well. A lot of other stocks out there are getting absolutely slaughtered. So again, I think SoundHound's doing pretty a-okay. These are all the transactions that have occurred on the secondary market above $100,000. So definitely a good amount there. And that's one thing that you really want to watch for it to continue, is the level of transactions, because as soon as you have less and less institutions getting in and paying attention to it, this is when you're going to have it revert back to around that $5 range, when nobody paid attention to it whatsoever. So definitely something to kind of take note of. With it right now at 11.26, trading within this range, so this pivot and this S1, $10.32 is going to be that strong support. Hasn't been tested today, so always a good thing. And then $12.44 similarly hasn't been tested, but that's going to be the next strong target / resistance. No new analyst ratings or anything along those lines, so again, just to something to keep in mind. But aside from all of that though, no new analyst ratings, nothing like that. On the actual chart itself, it is right now still above that 100-day moving average, so that's going to be a absolute key must hold event kind of scenario. So that is at $11.15. As of right now, stochastic RSI is considered very oversold. So a good piece of news, let's say SoundHound puts out a acquisition or something like that, then you'll definitely have a very nice recovery. But you do have that 50-day moving average at $16.27. So ultimately, that's going to be a very key, difficult point for SoundHound to get above. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. Are you buying the dip? Are you selling? Do you think it's justified? And actually going back to what I mentioned about acquisitions, do you think that SoundHound has something planned as far as a upcoming acquisition? So this S3 that was submitted, do you think that is going to be for that, or do you think that's just for operational whatever else? So that came out on January the 28th on a side note. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.